26th to the 28th of March 2026, bringing filmmakers, industry professionals, and film lovers together for 3 days of learning, collaboration, and creative exchange. Founded by filmmaker and festival programmer Nixon Ayuba Waya, the festival continues its mission to strengthen African filmmaking by building skills, supporting institutions, and creating space for stories told with honesty, depth, and impact. Through workshops, masterclasses, mentorship, and screenings, TAIFF positions cinema not just as entertainment, but as a tool for growth and connection. He now joins us on the line. Nixon, thank you so much for your time. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's been wonderful. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you,
Everyone.
sir. I tell you what, it sounds like this is the best time ever in the history of the world to be telling African stories through film. And I suppose that this Trans-Africa International Film Festival is one of the catalysts to ensure that we are telling our authentic African stories that are not, diluted by people looking from outside of Africa.
Yes. I think there hasn't been a better time to talk about, African issues by Africans for Africans on African soil as this. Because right now, Africa is going through, how do I put it, a systemic change in terms of creativity. And if you look at the creative terrain, you see lots and lots and lots of changes. And we are seeing a shift, from the point where people come from outside, filmmakers from outside the African continents come into Africa, tell our stories, and they tell the stories the way they want to tell these stories. And this time around, we're saying, okay, Africans are the ones telling African stories. And if you can see from the tagline of this year's festivals, it says, One Africa, Many Stories. So we still have a long way to go, but then it's just a step at a time.
I think this is such a novel, or rather, a noble idea, is what I want to say, Nixon, because I see that you're placing quite a strong emphasis on capacity building. So what does that look like in practicality when we look at perhaps skills development for emerging filmmakers on the continent?
Okay, when we look at a capacity building, I think it's I look at it as a holistic. I look at it from a holistic angle. Where not just for filmmakers to come and then have practical knowledge, like how to set up cameras or how to take videos and all that.
Yeah.
But when I say capacity, then we are looking at an embodiment of the whole process of filmmaking, from pre-production and even up to the business aspects of filmmaking. So I think we're actually taking it a step further. At TAIFF, we're actually taking it a step further from just practical technical knowledge to even the business and the economic aspect of filmmaking.
Very important that the business of filmmaking, because till this day we have a lot of filmmakers who are telling the most beautiful stories, but they miss the business side of filmmaking and they end up being shortchanged when it comes to their creativity and their film and their works being put out there and showcased to the world. And Nixon, let's talk about the comparison between the first edition of TAIFF and then this second one. What was the focus of the first one, and what makes this second edition different?
The first one was more like the litmus test for us, the programmers, and we kind of focus more on the networking. You understand? Networking and advocacy, especially advocacy, is very important. People often overlook advocacy. Having the understanding or the knowledge of making a film is one thing. Having the knowledge on how to go through the processes, of copywriting, and all that, and having access to, platforms and cinemas is quite a whole different challenge on its own. So I think last year we focused on networking, but this year we are adding more to it. It's like when you make a pot of stew,
Yeah.
you test it, and then you find out that, oh, actually some of the spices are not enough. You need to go back into that stew and add some stuff to it to make it taste better. So that's what we're actually doing. So we've actually tested networking, it worked. Now we are looking at advocacy and also capacity building in its full scale.
Okay. Well, we're 19 minutes into 3 p.m. in Central African time. We are talking about a very important Trans Africa International Film Festival. Let's take a break.
Are you fluent in French, Chinyanja, Portuguese, and Kiswahili? Are you passionate about radio? And are you looking to work in South Africa? Do you have papers that qualify you to work in South Africa? In that case, we might have an opportunity for you to work for Channel Africa. Send us your CV and demo at newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Remember, if you don't hear from us within 14 days, it means you have not made it or you have not been selected. Channel Africa, the African perspective. We take no sides, none whatsoever. We are the upside.
Thank you very much for staying with us. We continue our conversation. Nixon on the line. We are discussing the Trans Africa International Film Festival as it makes its return. So we're diarising 26th to 28th of March 2026 to bring together the film industry, whether it's professionals, film lovers, all is invited. Nixon, just following on your response around the significance of the second edition, there seems to be quite a big emphasis on education, if I could use that as an umbrella term. I'm seeing the young filmmakers mentorship program. I'm seeing that there is quite a big emphasis on workshops and masterclasses that are going to play a role in preparing filmmakers for this competitive industry, as we've noted. So talk to us about just that big emphasis, if I could use that term, into integrating the informal sector or younger people that are not as experienced into the festival to learn the tools and then go out there and make magic.
Like my dad would always say, that's the future of any country, depends on its younger generation, And if we can see it that way, we'll understand that for the young filmmakers, why we target young filmmakers is because they have the time, they have the energy, they have the zeal, to excel. And if at any point that zeal is distorted, we'll have a problem in the future. So that is why we're looking at the young filmmakers. It's one thing to have the passion. It's another thing, to be able to make magic, like you said, with your cameras and your lights. Yeah. But most importantly, it is very, very paramount to understand that these stories have to be out there. And quite a number of young filmmakers don't know that aspect, how to navigate the film landscape in order to have their films out there, because it is one thing to have your film in your laptops and in your desktops or in your on drives. And it is another thing to make sure that that film gets to the intended audience. So that is why we're having these whole master classes, and the master classes are going to be taught by industry professionals, So out of experience, they are going to pass down this knowledge to the younger generations, telling them that they are going to be hands-on training, based on experience and all that. So it's actually different from what you learn in film school, and then what you're going to learn on the spot.
Nixon, paint a picture of the 2 days people will be there from the 26th to the 28th. Paint a picture of what we can expect. You're touching on masterclasses. What else can delegates expect for that period of time? And also the collaborations, institutions that will be collaborating with you on this particular, festival, to ensure that it goes beyond just talking about things, but that there are plans of action to ensure that these filmmakers get their projects out to the global platform.
Okay. For this year, actually, we are partnering with a streaming platform. Okay, and they already having access to our films, and by God's grace, they are going to select some films. They are going to select some titles that they feel, based on their criteria, can air on their platform. And then these filmmakers that are lucky to have their films on that platform will get paid, based on the rates and all that, with the streaming app. And that's actually a good thing. That's a very welcome development from us as programmers. Like, the filmmakers are not just having their films showcased on our at our festival. They're also having their films auctioned, which is very, very important, which is actually a very, very driving factor for filmmakers to, look at the film festival aspect as an important tool in, in selling their titles and all that. And for the 3 days event, actually, we're looking at day one. Day one has to do a lot with the opening ceremony. Okay, the opening ceremony. Then we have our world premiere of our first short film for that night. And then day two, we're doing the whole lot of panel discussion and then capacity building. And then day three, it's the closing night and the award and ceremony. Okay, but before that, also we've been doing community screenings. Actually, it's something we're testing with this festival to see how it works, if we're still going to integrate it in our next edition, and it's working. So some films actually have been screened at a community level where discussions were made based on. So we're trying to use that to see if it's going to work as an advocacy tool, to work with policymakers and see if film can use to drive. Actually, it can drive quick change. Let me use the word quick change. Government and other policymakers into fast action, and so far so good. When at the end of the festival, we're going to get the data for that report and see if it actually worked or not, or if we're still going to continue with the traditional, cinema and setup. Yeah.
Okay. Any rules, terms, conditions, just give us a heads up as to, especially for those that still want to submit submit a film rather for the upcoming festival so that it can be considered. Just talk to us about just some of the rules to consider, and also how I can actually get my film up for consideration, because I know that there are very strict terms and conditions, sir.
Well, when we look at it, the festival is all about not so strict, though, like you said, but it's we are a bit relaxed, But most importantly is to have your film, in the highest quality so far. I think basically I would say good audio, good picture, and compelling story. That's the three basic criteria that I would say.
Yeah.
But other than that, you still also have to submit the submission guidelines and outlines are out there. They're online. They're on the various submission platforms that are out there. It's on Film Freeway, so people can have access to the Trans-African Film Festival on Film Freeway. And also, I would say that then since this year, for the next edition, we're not really looking at traditional cinema, but still, you still have to have a DCP copy of your title in hand, because the festival for next edition is going to be more of community screening witnesses. We are not going to have it 3 days, blah, 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 and the rest. It's actually on the go, Okay, this month we are working with community A, and this is the category of films we're going to show to them, and these are the invitees, At every screening, we are going to have a full festival experience, So I think filmmakers should have their DCPs especially ready and in hand, and have their, screeners, screening copies. And if they don't, there are also partners that we partner with that can also provide these services for them at affordable and cheapest rates. I don't want to go into that, okay? But basically, it's just have a good picture, compelling stories, and then good audio. That's it for me.
Oh.
Yes.
Nixon, all the best with the second edition of TAIFF. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. And for those who are wondering, where can I submit? And, check out the guidelines. He did mention it. Filmfreeway.com. The voice there, ladies and gentlemen, of Nixon Ayuba Waya. He's the festival programmer, he's the director, he's the founder of TAIFF as they celebrate the second installment. It's 30 minutes after 3 p.m. Central African time. Let's get the latest sports.
Sports on Channel Africa.